Welcome to a new deep dive. Today, we're taking a really fascinating journey into an ancient text, one that promises, well, profound protection and resilience.
That's right.
You've brought us some incredible sources, mostly excerpts from the Faith Beams GP podcast, and specifically their episode, It Shall Not Come Near You, Divine Immunity in a Broken World. It focuses pretty intensely on Psalm 91. So our mission today is really to unpack this powerful idea of divine immunity. I mean, what does that actually mean? To be protected in a world that, let's face it, often feels chaotic, uncertain.
Yeah, absolutely.
How does this ancient promise translate into, modern real-life experiences? We're going to try and distill the core message and see how it actually played out for people. We've got stories from Venezuela, Trinidad.
Yeah, even broader situations.
Right, like those global school shutdowns we all went through.
And what's fascinating here, I think, is how our main source immediately confronts the reality of our world. It doesn't shy away from the fear, the disease, disasters, losses.
No, it faces it head on.
Exactly. And then it offers this counter-narrative, this idea of divine protection. So we'll be exploring what that protection genuinely looks like. It's not denying suffering, but maybe a different way of experiencing it or responding to it.
Okay, let's dive into that. Let's unpack this central idea, which is anchored in Psalm 91, verse 7.
Sounds good.
So the central promise from Psalm 91.7 says, 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. That's a bold statement, isn't it?
It really is, Stark.
When you first hear that, what immediately comes to mind about what come near even means in that context?
That's a great question, actually, because come near is key.
Yeah.
The sources we looked at, they clarify that in the original Hebrew, the term implies more than just proximity. It means to touch or to harm, even to infect.
Okay. So it's deeper than just physical distance.
Exactly. The promise seems to be that even when destruction is, all around, it won't be able to truly touch you in that devastating way. It won't fundamentally break you.
And, the really key thing here, as the source points out, is that this verse doesn't deny that others might fall. It's not some Pollyanna view saying bad things won't happen around you.
Not at all.
Instead, it's affirming that your story can be different. It seems to say God's people aren't necessarily exempt from seeing trouble, but they can be, quote, marked by divine exemption when they fully trust.
Right. And if we connect this to the sort of bigger picture, the implication is even when the world around you breaks, what breaks them will not break you.
Wow.
It's a very specific kind of immunity, you could say. Not immunity from witnessing hardship, but from being consumed or destroyed by it. It suggests an inner resilience, maybe, a different outcome.
The podcast we're drawing from paints a really vivid picture of what 1,000 falling looks like today. It's talking about things we all recognize, right? Mass layoffs, economic crashes.
Loss of lives to war, viruses, natural disasters.
Yeah, even friendships falling apart, whole communities shaken by tragedy. We've all seen or felt these kinds of things.
Unfortunately, yes. But what's compelling, I think, is how the material immediately follows that description by saying, but even as we see thousands fall, you can stand. And it brings in another scripture, Psalm 37, verses 18 and 19, which says, the blameless spend their days under the Lord's care. In times of disaster, they will not wither. So it kind of sets the stage for these real-world examples.
Absolutely. And this is where it gets really impactful, I think, because we have these real stories that seem to bring this ancient promise into the present day. Like, take Amaryllis from Venezuela. The source describes her as a widow, mother of two. Her husband died during political unrest, which led to just a total collapse of their business, their safety, their joy, everything.
Devastating circumstances.
Totally. Yet, the story goes, she kept praying Psalm 91.7, whispering, 10,000 may fall at my right hand, but it won't touch us. And our source highlights that while she lost many things, material things, security, she never lost God. And she was able to rebuild. Yeah. She now runs a feeding program for other widows and children. The big takeaway they noted was the storm came, but it didn't take her out.
That story really gets to the core principle, doesn't it? It's not about the absence of storms. She was right in it.
Right in it.
But it's about a different outcome within that storm. Amaryllis faced, the full force of personal and societal collapse, yet her spirit, her ability to rebuild, that remained intact.
And then there's another example, Ezekiel from Guyana. He worked in agriculture, and his whole community faced really severe floods, power outages, sickness.
Another tough situation.
Yeah. But his farm, specifically, stayed safe. He apparently declared Psalm 91.7 over his land. And the account says, while crops were failing all around him on either side, his actually multiplied.
Multiplied.
Yeah. He told his neighbors, I trusted in God's covering. The source material calls this kingdom immunity. What do you think Ezekiel's experience adds to this?
Well, Ezekiel's story seems to show a more tangible, almost physical preservation. It's not just about emotional resilience, like maybe with Amaryllis, but sometimes a literal protection over livelihood, resources.
Right.
So both Amaryllis and Ezekiel, their stories seem to demonstrate that this idea of divine immunity isn't about avoiding the storm completely, but about being preserved within it. That's a really powerful distinction, I think. It shifts the focus from just escaping hardship to, well, maybe even thriving through it.
Okay, so if divine immunity doesn't mean we're just, blind to suffering or sticking our heads in the sand, what does it mean? How do we differentiate it from just denial or wishful thinking?
That's a crucial question, and the material is quite clear here. It means we respond differently. That's the key.
Respond differently. How?
Well, it suggests that when others are panicking, the person trusting in this promise is meant to carry peace. Instead of hiding in fear, they're encouraged to offer help. Where others are sort of paralyzed by fear, they're called to operate out of faith. It's presented as a very active, not passive response.
That makes a lot of sense. And it actually reminds me of that quote from the New Testament, John 17.15, which the podcast also brings up. It says, my prayer is not that you take them out of the world, but that you protect them from the evil one.
Exactly. That verse captures it perfectly. It's about being in this world, but not of its destruction.
Oh.
That's a critical nuance, isn't it? It emphasizes active engagement, compassion, assistance, rather than just withdrawal or trying to build a bubble. It frames this divine immunity idea not as some personal escape clause, but more like a foundation for living bravely, compassionately, even when things are falling apart around you.
Okay, let's look at a few more real-life scenarios where this principle apparently played out. What about Keisha, a nurse in Port of Spain, Trinidad?
Yes, her story was striking too.
During the pandemic, right? She was watching coworkers get sick, feeling totally exhausted, just overwhelmed. But the account says she prayed Psalm 91.7 while she was, sanitizing rooms, touching patients.
Right in the thick of it.
Exactly. And she never tested positive. But more than that, the source says her peace became a witness to others. How does her experience shed light on this immunity idea, maybe extending beyond just the physical?
Keisha's story is fascinating because it really illustrates how this immunity might manifest beyond just, say, not getting the virus. Her peace, her calmness in that incredibly chaotic environment, that didn't just protect her, it seems it became visible. It influenced those around her.
Like a tangible atmosphere?
Sort of, yeah. It suggests an immunity that safeguards emotional and spiritual well-being, which in turn impacts one's presence, one's influence, even in a high-stress place like a hospital during a pandemic.
And then there's Paulo, a pastor in Brazil. His church experienced a truly devastating fire one year. They lost the building, everything in it.
Terrible.
But incredibly, the source emphasizes not one person was harmed. And apparently, they had just declared Psalm 91 that very Sunday. They managed to rebuild within 7 months.
Oh, whoa.
The takeaway highlighted was, God allowed the building to burn, but not the people. That's a really stark distinction.
It is, isn't it? Paulo's experience kind of forces you to reevaluate what protection truly means in this context. It suggests it's not always about preventing the incident itself. The fire still happened.
Right. The building burned.
But it might be about preserving what truly matters most.
Yeah.
The people, their spirit, their community. It hints at maybe a higher purpose where the physical loss might be allowed for the preservation of something deeper, something more essential.
The source material also touches on a broader, more contemporary example. Those global school shutdowns during the pandemic and the resulting mental health crisis.
Yes, that was huge.
Millions of kids, teens suffering depression, anxiety, confusion, a really difficult time for families everywhere.
Definitely.
Yet the source notes that some families declared Psalm 91.7 and saw unexplainable protection over their kids, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually.
And this leads us to maybe the core reason why, according to the source material, it states. Because when God's presence surrounds you, the atmosphere around you is different.
An atmosphere.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah. It suggests a tangible impact on your immediate environment, your well-being, even when the external circumstances are objectively dire. The claim isn't just wishful thinking, it implies a profound alteration of one's actual experience within that challenging reality.
So, okay, we've explored these powerful ideas, these really compelling real-life accounts. What's the larger takeaway for us, for you listening, as we navigate our own challenges?
Well, I think this whole deep dive into Psalm 91.7 and this principle of divine immunity, it offers a really powerful perspective shift.
How so?
It's suggesting that protection isn't primarily about avoiding life's challenges altogether. We saw that with Amaryllis, with Paolo.
Right, the challenges still came.
Exactly. But it's about experiencing potentially a different outcome, a different kind of resilience, even when the world around you feels like it's in turmoil. It frames protection not just as an absence of harm, but maybe as an active presence that transforms your experience of the adversity.
Yeah, it's a useful way to think about it.
And this concept, this divine immunity, it offers a compelling way, I think, to rethink how we navigate what the Source calls a broken world. It really encourages us, maybe encourages you listening, to consider the active role faith might play in shaping your experience, even amidst huge global crises or very personal setbacks.
It's about recognizing that our internal state, maybe anchored in a deeper trust, could fundamentally alter how we interact with external events.
That seems to be the core message, yes.
So the call to action, coming straight from our source material, is pretty direct. It's to declare this powerful statement for yourself. It will not come near me. And the source adds, not because you're perfect or have it all figured out, because God's presence is claimed to be with you. It even suggests practical things like memorizing Psalm 91.7.
Yeah, declaring it over your home, your business, relationship.
Praying it over children.
Yeah.
Or even just placing the verse somewhere visible, kitchen, workspace, car, as a constant reminder.
Practical steps to keep that perspective front and center.
Right. And we'd encourage you, if this resonated, maybe share this deep dive with someone you know who might be feeling overwhelmed right now.
Good idea.
And perhaps consider, just for yourself, what specific area of your own life you might consciously declare this promise over this week. See what happens.
This whole discussion has really highlighted a particular kind of preservation, a specific kind of protection. And it does raise, I think, an important final question for you to ponder.
What's that?
How might the very act of perceiving reality through this lens, of declaring and truly believing these promises, how might that actively shift not just our perception, but perhaps even the tangible outcomes we experience? It's something to think about.
Definitely something to think about. Stay curious, stay informed, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.